but I couldn't stand to watch him twitch, and I shot him right here. I gave him his nose job. He wanted it.
This is 21-year-old Shayna Hubers. 5 hours before this footage was recorded, Shayna was living what seemed like a happy life with her boyfriend, Ryan Poston. To her, Ryan was everything, and she believed they were destined to marry. But on October 12, 2012, things took a disturbing turn for the worse when Shayna called 911 in a panic.
Campbell County 911.
I killed my boyfriend in self-defense. He was twitching and I knew he was going to die anyway, and he was making funny noises. I shot him a couple more times just to kill him because I knew he would have been.
At the police station, Shayna claimed that Ryan had attacked her and insisted she only acted in self-defense.
And he put his arm across the table and had it in my face and was screaming at me at the top of his lungs after he had thrown me around the room. And I shot him in self-defense because he'd done stuff before where I hit my head on the headboard and could have died. I was raised really, really Christian, and murder is a sin.
As the investigation went on, Shayna maintained her innocence, but the evidence told a completely different story, exposing her disturbing secret.
She tried to convince the world that Ryan was abusing her.
I don't know how you can do that and play this role of God.
Within hours of putting 6 bullets, she danced and sang.
She didn't just destroy one life, she destroys everything.
I believe. Yeah, I believe.
The year is 2011. 28-year-old Ryan Poston works as an attorney in Cincinnati, Ohio. He has recently started his own law firm, has a caring family, and seems to be living a picture-perfect life.
Ryan was the most laid-back, easy guy you'd ever meet. He was a very good lawyer. Carried himself like a professional. It was always important to Ryan to carry yourself.
He's the type of person that you want in your life. Not just a friend, but a loving son, a protective, adoring older brother.
A handsome and accomplished lawyer, he has a natural charm when it comes to women. One evening while scrolling through Facebook, he stumbles upon some spring break photos of Shayna Hubers, a stunning 19-year-old college student. Intrigued, he sends her a friend request, and before long, the two start talking.
My first impression of Shayna was that she was a very young, pretty girl who seemed to have her head on her shoulders. Shayna was the social butterfly. She really disliked when she was not the center of attention. And if someone else was getting any kind of attention, she would either dance or sing to get the eyes back on her.
Very soon, the two of them start dating. As a psychology major, Shayna has earned numerous prizes for her academic achievements and leadership skills.
I thought she was close to genius, in my opinion. I mean, she always was in AP classes, always getting A's and everything.
Like everybody was like, oh, well, that's the girl that's got good grades and stuff and really pretty. Like everybody would always talk about how pretty she was.
Ryan thinks he's just enjoying a casual relationship with a smart, pretty college girl. Shayna, however, clearly has something more in her mind. To her, Ryan is marriage material.
I truly believe Shayna's ultimate goal in the relationship was to marry Ryan. She had made that clear that this was it for her.
When Ryan notices Shayna becoming obsessed with their relationship, he makes several attempts to break it off, but it never works. He doesn't want to upset her, and she simply won't take no for an answer.
She would not understand that sometimes it's okay to let go, especially when you have to call them from stolen phones, when you have to make up stories and excuses or just drive up unannounced. That is stalker behavior.
Over the course of the next year, the relationship is on and off, with Ryan making multiple attempts to end things. During this time, Ryan sends a message to his cousin saying, "This is getting to be restraining order level crazy. She's shown up at my condo like 3 times and refuses to leave each time."
Literally, probably the craziest person I have ever met. She almost scares me. I wish I had said, if she scares you or if she's crazy, just walk away.
Rather than ending things for good, he repeatedly takes her back. Over time, Shayna's obsession with Ryan grows stronger with each passing day. Finally, a year and a half into their relationship, on October 12, 2012, their relationship takes a disturbing turn for the worse when Shayna uncovers Ryan's little secret. On that afternoon, Ryan informs her that he won't be able to spend the weekend with her, but he keeps a secret from her. He has plans with someone else. The person he's meeting is 23-year-old Audrey Bolt, crowned 2012 Miss Ohio. They met recently through mutual friends on Facebook. Initially, their conversation leaned towards meeting at Ryan's place, but they ultimately agreed to meet at a bar instead.
She's very beautiful, very personable, and all that kind of stuff. So Ryan was the perfect match for her. He was really excited to go.
Who wouldn't be looking forward to meet a lawyer from Cincinnati who's attractive, funny, and witty? I mean, who wouldn't be excited to?
At around 10:30 p.m., Audrey walks into the bar where she's planning to meet Ryan, but he hasn't shown up yet. She finds a seat at the bar and chooses to wait for him there.
And I'm kind of like looking around and I didn't see him, so I waited.
A couple of minutes later, Ryan is still nowhere to be seen. Miss Ohio starts to realize she might actually be getting stood up, something she never expected.
I mean, I'm a girl, and so I was like, where is this guy? Like, where is he? He was very, responsive to text messages. I had just talked to him. He said, okay, no problem, see you there. And he didn't show up, so I went home.
But she doesn't know. Her date is dead. And just a few moments ago, 911 received this call from Shayna Hubers.
Campbell County 911. Ma'am, I killed my boyfriend in self-defense. I'm standing about 10 feet from his dead body. Okay, are you sure that he is dead? He's dead, ma'am. He's completely dead. Because he was twitching and I knew he was going to die anyway, and he was making funny noises. I shot him a couple more times just to kill him because I knew he would have been. I'm sorry, you said you shot him a couple more times after that? Yeah. How many times did you shoot him total? I don't know. Okay, because he was twitching and you knew he was going to die, so you shot him again? Enough to make sure he was dead because he was twitching so bad I didn't want to watch him lay there and twitch. So you shot him instead of calling 911? It was pretty bad.
After the 911 call, emergency responders rush to Ryan's apartment. The operator tells Shayna to unlock the door for the officers and come out with her hands visible. Following instructions, she steps outside and is immediately ordered to lie down as they place her in handcuffs. The officers proceed inside, where they are met with a horrifying sight.
As I entered the apartment, I saw Ryan Poston's body on the floor in the dining room behind the dining room table. It was crazy. You just wouldn't believe it.
The officer checks for a pulse, but Ryan is long gone. He then leads Shayna to the police station. Following this, Shayna is interrogated by the detectives.
Do you smoke?
I will. I can.
As the detectives start walking out, she starts sobbing, but the moment the officer steps out, her crying stops.
Right off the bat, I'm thinking that she's, pretending. She wasn't crying. No tears came out of her eyes.
She is then read her rights. Right away, she asks for an attorney, preventing the officer from asking further questions. However, she struggles to keep quiet.
After giving her Miranda, she said that she wanted an attorney, and I pretty much quit asking her questions. She started talking.
I don't have any serious injuries that I could have had.
Right.
And I shot him in self-defense because he's done stuff before where I've hit my head on the headboard and could have died.
As she gets increasingly anxious, she begins to fidget constantly and gulps down water every few minutes. Meanwhile, she chats nonstop, to the point where officers can barely stand it and want to step out. They rotate shifts, making sure someone stays with her at all times.
She didn't like to be in there by herself. She wanted someone there the whole time to hear her side of the story, to hear her talk.
What are they going to do with me?
I don't know. They just want me to come there and sit with you.
Investigators want to know how the conflict between them began and whether there was any history of abuse in their relationship. Once again, without being asked, Shayna starts telling them what happened. She explains that Ryan sat at the dining room table, glaring intensely and shouting at her, all the while playing with his semi-automatic handgun and its bullets. Ryan, a passionate gun collector, owned several firearms in his apartment and usually kept a gun stored on a nearby shelf.
He had put his arm across the table, and there's a lamp. And he had put his arm across the table and had it in my face and was screaming at me at the top of his lungs after he had thrown me around the room. And was saying emotionally to me, "You're a f***ing hillbilly. I f***ing hate you. I hate everything about you for what you are and my family."
She describes him lifting her and hurling her across the room before dragging her out and throwing her through the door. However, her story about the struggle inside the apartment doesn't line up with the crime scene pictures. Everything remains in place, with no signs of anything being disturbed or evidence of a fight.
You know, there's going to be some red mark and some kind of bruising, something that would indicate there was some struggle. There was nothing like that in this case.
Following this, Shayna goes on to describe the moment she shot Ryan.
And in the middle of him doing something with his arm or saying something crazy, he shot him. And I thought, oh my God, what have I done? You know.
As she continues to describe the final moments of Ryan's life, the details are beyond disturbing.
He was laying with his face on the table, like twitching, and so I knew he was going to die a very slow and painful death. I knew he was already dead, you know, and within the next 20 seconds, so in the next 2 minutes, I knew he was going to be dead. And so I shot him enough times to kill him so that he wouldn't suffer.
He was helpless. He laid there helpless, and she walked over and shot him again and again and again. That's not self-defense.
The detectives are baffled by her story. When someone you care about is hurt and lying on the ground, your first instinct would be to help him or call 911. But Shayna confesses that she waited a full 10 minutes before reaching out for assistance, raising serious questions about her actions. What she tells next leaves the detectives in complete shock.
One of our last conversations we had that was good was that he wants my best friend who's a dentist to do his veneers and wants to get a nose job. Just that kind of person. And I shot him right here. I gave him his nose job. He wanted.
Bill and I turned to each other and said, did we really just hear that? Did she really just say that?
My jaw dropped, you know, I was like, did she just really say that?
But this is just the start of Shayna's bizarre actions. She begins asking lots of questions about what it's like to be in jail and even frets about her school assignments. As soon as the detectives step out of the room, Shayna starts singing and dancing.
I did. Yes, I did. I can't believe I did that.
Someone who is in shock does not pirouette. Within hours of putting 6 bullets into Ryan Poston and watching him die, she danced and sang.
It was a very bizarre thing. Her actions in that room didn't come off as somebody who had just killed somebody. A lot of the things she did in there were staged.
She was desperate to tell her story, to have people hear her side. She wanted to get that all out there. And I really think in her mind, Shayna thought that everybody would just buy it, that none of us were smart enough. to see beyond the facade.
Finally, detectives have enough. They come back into the room and place Shayna under arrest for the murder of Ryan Poston. In the following days, the shooting makes headline news.
She shot her boyfriend in self-defense.
A grand jury has indicted a northern Kentucky woman.
Young Kentucky woman accused of brutally killing her boyfriend, shooting him 6 times and then boasting that she, quote, gave him the nose job he always wanted.
However, the case is far from over. Shayna insists that Ryan's temper was uncontrollable and often led to violent outbursts against her, something she says she can prove. As she waits for her trial, those who worked in the same building as Ryan Poston share their memories of her troubling actions. They recall how her intense obsession affected Ryan's life.
If she couldn't get him on his cell phone, she'd call the receptionist and ask for him, or she'd show up here. It was relentless.
She would text him 50 to 100 times a day. She would just wear him down and exhaust him to the point where he would say, "Okay, Shayna," and he just kept doing the easy thing, which was staying with her.
They recall Ryan being in an unusually good mood on October 12, 2012. That day, he excitedly mentioned he had a date lined up with Miss Ohio. Aware of Shayna's quick temper, they worried about how she might take the news. Despite their warnings, Ryan brushed it off. Just a few hours later, he was dead.
I knew she was a stalker. I thought that she was perfectly capable of causing a scene, but murder?
I think that she went over there, tried to talk him out of breaking up with her, and I think he just stood his ground for the first time. I think he just said, no, like this isn't working.
Before the trial starts, investigators review all the cell phone records between Shayna and Ryan. In doing so, they discover hundreds of thousands of text messages. These messages reveal a clear pattern. Ryan had attempted to end the relationship with Shayna multiple times. 8 months before his death, Ryan even told her, "You can tell people you broke up with me." A month later, he begged her to stop texting him. In April, he made yet another effort to break up, but again, it was unsuccessful. Despite his attempts to distance himself, he never sought a restraining order against her.
Well, under the law in Kentucky, he didn't qualify for a restraining order. The law in Kentucky basically requires the two to have been living together or to have been married.
Another text in April to his cousin said, "She came to my place on Sunday morning, and I literally had to pick her up and throw her into the hall." While the prosecution argues that Ryan was the one being followed and living in constant fear, the defense team points to several Facebook messages Ryan sent to his friends, suggesting he was a man overwhelmed with anger. He also experienced a serious disagreement with his former law partner, who was now suing him. Nearly 2 years after Ryan's passing, on June 10, 2014, Shayna attends her bail hearing. At the courthouse, she is joined by her mother, who steps forward to provide her testimony.
Shayna was in the Gifted and Talented program.
Shayna Hubers is not a child, a girl, a person that would murder someone, that would wake up and say, okay, I'm going to shoot somebody. She's far from evil. Shayna has a heart of gold. She's like her mommy, a loving spirit. That's what I want the world to know.
The next one to take the stand is Shayna. While testifying, she portrays herself as the perfect girlfriend, but she also hints at a darker side to their relationship. She claims she was scared of Ryan, saying he had an unhealthy fascination with firearms. She even reveals that Ryan once fired a gun inside his apartment.
We don't know if he did target practice inside his own condo. We do know that there was a book that had, wood on it and some holes.
On the other side, the prosecutors continue to push Shayna to explain the contradictions in her story. During the 911 call, she mentioned taking the gun from Ryan's hands, but later in the interrogation room, her account was different.
It was a handgun that I used. The gun was this big. I picked it up off the table. I did have to release the tape. I did. I remember it now. I can see it in my mind.
I believe as soon as she released the safety, she made the decision that she was going to kill him. It is a sign, in my opinion, that she had time to think about it.
Ultimately, the judge decides on a $1.5 million bail. Unable to pay, she remains in jail until the trial. On April 13, 2015, Hubers' murder trial begins.
We are on the record on Commonwealth versus Shayna Hubers.
Shayna's young, she's attractive, she's articulate, she's well-dressed. The jury walks in and they see this girl and they might not think, looking at her, that she's capable of something like this. And that's why it was so crucial to give them the picture of who she really is.
The prosecutors paint Shayna as someone obsessed with Ryan, unable to handle the thought of him being with another woman. On the other hand, the defense argues that Shayna was a victim of domestic violence.
You're going to come to see that she is jealous and she is calculated, and most of all, ladies and gentlemen, she is manipulative. Someone who would go to the ends of the earth to get her way, because in her world, what Shayna wants, Shayna gets.
The prosecution's key evidence is a video taken in the interrogation room. In this footage, the jury gets to see a different side of Shayna Hubers, not just through her words, but by observing her behavior. She spins around and sings, acting completely unaffected. To prove how cold-hearted the once model student appears, the prosecution calls upon 3 women who were Shayna's cellmates during her time in jail.
She was trying to make people believe that he was abusive to her. She would throw furniture around to make it seem like there was a fight.
And what did she say it really happened?
That she was the aggressor in the fight.
She would record Ryan while he was sleeping, and she would just play these videos over and over to herself. She thought it was very important that I didn't judge her for the things that she's done.
Holly Nivens and Cecily Miller, her cellmates, share the bizarre events they witnessed while living with Shayna.
She would be sitting there on the phone and she'd be crying, and she would look at me and she would kind of like wink at me and just smile. Yeah, to be honest with you, it kind of creeped me out.
She'd be on the phone with her mom, screaming, crying, and then get off the phone and be like I am now, talking to you like nothing, like turn it off a switch.
The most chilling detail they observed was how little remorse she showed about Ryan and his family.
I said, what about his family? She goes, I don't care. How can you imagine? She's his only son. No face. Can't even kiss him on the forehead. That's something I couldn't wrap my brain around.
She recalls Shayna admitting that she has been setting up accusations against Ryan long before he was killed. She confided in her, making it clear that Ryan never hurt her in that way. But those accusations were the only card Shayna had to play as her defense. Preparing for trial, she had a plan in mind.
She said she was going to plead insanity, but then she said that she was too smart because she has an IQ of Einstein, up to the IQ of Einstein, and so she's going to plead the wife battered syndrome.
She would purposely, roll her sleeves up to show bruises that were on her arms.
I had to say something. I could not live with myself if I did. After I testified against her, everybody's calling me a snitch and this and that. How can you say that? What if someone did that to your kid?
On April 23, 2015, after 5 intense hours of deliberation, the jury reaches a verdict. Hubers is convicted of Poston's murder. After the decision, the jury suggests a 40-year sentence for her imprisonment. But then, the case takes an unexpected turn. A new discovery leads to Shayna's conviction being overturned.
Well, it was discovered that there was a juror who had sat on our first jury who had previously been convicted of a felony offense. Under the law in Kentucky, if you have a prior felony conviction, you are excluded from serving on a jury.
There was disappointment on our part, but the real struggle for us was the pain for Ryan's family. That closure was torn away from them, that peace of mind was torn away from them, and that they were going to have to undo whatever healing they'd done and live it all again.
Now, she finds herself with a new opportunity to share her side, a new shot for freedom. The prosecutors are unsure of the approach her defense will take this time. Given Shayna's reputation for being manipulative, they worry about what she may say. On January 16, 2018, the new trial begins. This time, Shayna is represented by a new attorney.
Our approach was to focus more on the extreme emotional disturbance. Kentucky's murder statute says if you kill someone, intent to kill them, that it's murder unless it's done under extreme emotional disturbance for which there's a reasonable cause. We were running a manslaughter defense, yes.
If the jury sides with her, she may be found guilty of manslaughter instead of murder, which means she could be released from prison in just a few years. This time, the defense attorney presents a very different, more troubling picture of Ryan Poston than what the prosecution has described to the jury. He highlights Ryan's emotional state on the night of his death, explaining that Ryan was upset with a former colleague from the law firm who was filing a lawsuit against him. Shayna also shares shocking accounts of her intimate relationship with Poston.
He screamed at me, "You're a f***ed-up person, and you're a f***ed-up person because you were touched when you were a little girl, and that's why you can't orgasm, and that's why I can't love you, and that's why no one will ever be able to love you."
She continues by remembering the details of the night Ryan was murdered.
I remember trying to stand up where I was sitting on the floor, and Ryan pushed me back down by my chest. He put his hand on my chest and pushed me back down onto the floor. And I was crying, and I was hysterically crying, and I recall Ryan standing over me and grabbing the gun that was sitting on the table and pointing it at me and saying, "I could just kill you right now and get away with it. Nobody would even know."
Shayna and her defense team try their best to portray Ryan as both an emotional and physical aggressor in the relationship. The trial lasts 10 days, but the jury takes only 5 hours to reach a verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Shayna Hubers, guilty of murder under instruction number 5, signed by the foreperson, season.
When the murder conviction came back, that was great and all, but that was just the first hurdle. Now it was time for sentencing.
In Kentucky, when someone is convicted of murder, their sentence can range from 20 years to life behind bars. The jury has these options in front of them. For the prosecutors, anything shorter than the 40-year sentence from the first trial would be considered a setback. This time, life in prison is the only acceptable outcome. After just a few hours, the jury comes back with a decision.
We, the jury, fix the defendant, Shayna Hubers' punishment for the offense of murder at life imprisonment. Signed by the foreperson.
This time, Shayna receives an even bigger sentence, something she wasn't expecting. With Shayna finally sentenced, Ryan's family and friends give their final statements.
That's the kind of loss in the hole that it leaves, as Katie said, a hole in her heart, because that's what it feels like.
There is no satisfaction. You think there's some kind of relief for it. There's no relief. This is going to sound harsh, but I hope her day today is worse than it was yesterday, and I hope tomorrow is worse than it is today. She took a friend of mine for no reason at all. There'd be no penalty severe enough for there to be justice.